guys, welcome back to True Crime Talk with Mel. I hope you're doing good. Are you doing good? Are you okay? Everything groovy? Okay. It is really hot right now in Michigan. It's like 90 something and the heat index is like 100 or something, and I know tomorrow's going to be even hotter, so I had this whole plan that I was gonna wear my like 70s hippie-ish shirt and I was gonna wear my hair all cute and stuff, but it's just way too hot, so I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So I think it was last week, I took an Instagram poll to see which case you guys wanted me to do next. The choices were Ed Kemper, Catherine Knight, Joe Ball, the Alligator Man, and the Somerton Man, which I plan on getting to all of them eventually. But Ed Kemper was the winner, and he just so happens to be my favorite serial killer. So this is gonna be a longer one, and I'm hoping to add some interview clips and some photos. It's also gonna be pretty gruesome and pretty graphic, so just be warned. So, settle in, get comfy, and let's get rolling. Now, a lot of people look at me funny when I say I have a favorite serial killer, but I feel like true crime fans know what I'm talking about. Would I like to be his friend? No. Would I like to go out on a date with him? No. Do I find him absolutely fascinating? Yeah. With an IQ of 136 and standing at 6 feet 9 inches and 300 pounds, Ed was deemed a gentle giant by those who knew him when he was younger. Ed Kemper was born on December 18th, 1948 in Burbank, California. He was born to Edmund and Claire Nell Kemper. He had 2 sisters, one older and one younger, and he was the middle child. Now, he had always looked up to his father Edmund, but he had a very volatile relationship with his mother Claire Nell. His mother was an alcoholic and was very verbally abusive to Ed. She belittled him and told him that nobody would ever love him. She also physically abused him regularly. At age 9, Ed recalls a moment in a later interview that scarred him as a boy, where his mother made his father cut off the heads of his pet chickens and made him eat them for dinner.
Why did you keep the heads? Why did you cut them off, and why did you keep them?
Something out of my childhood. I could put it on an incident. I mean, my father chopping the heads off of our 2 pet chickens and my mother insisting that I eat them for dinner. You know, we could say it was something that simple. I don't think it was. Now, my dad heads out back with a hatchet. I got on my bike and I tried to stop it. I remember that. I got on the bike, rode around the block. I was crying. I haven't talked about that for a lot of years. I'm sure that may have implemented something, that may have gotten something rolling, but along fantasy lines, but it took a lot of years of development along those lines to really get off.
His parents divorced, and he was forced to live with his mother full-time. His mother was worried that he was going to harm his sisters, so he was forced to sleep in the basement. When Ed was younger, he started doing bizarre things, like playing a game called Gas Chamber with his sister, where he was tied to a chair and pretended to die by gas. His sisters would find their Barbies and dolls with their heads chopped off, and he had also started to mutilate and kill small animals, including his sister's cats. Now, we all know, red flag, that's usually like the number one thing to look for in serial killers. That's how it all begins. So in 1963, at the age of 15, Ed ran away to live with his father, but Edmund had remarried and had a child and basically had a new family. Ed had friction with his stepmom, so he was taken to live with his grandparents in Montana. His grandmother Maud was equally as controlling as his mother, and things did not go well there either. On August 27th, 1964, Ed shoots his grandma and fears his grandpa will be sad when he finds out, so he shoots him when he gets home. After that, he calls his mother and she tells him to call the police. Ed is sent to a Atascadero State Hospital for the mentally ill at age 16. Ed spends 4 years at the hospital and becomes friends with a counselor. So, 4 years later, he's now 20. On his birthday, he was released from the state hospital and put on parole. Now, he was actually released to the care of Clarnell, his mother, even though the hospital didn't agree because of her psychological abuse. So he served 4 years in a mental hospital for killing his grandparents. Then is given to his mother, who is psychologically abusive to him. Okay? After being released from the hospital, Ed had applied to be a state trooper, but was rejected because he was too large, which I didn't even know was a thing. Is it a thing? Like, now? I guess I didn't know that was a thing. Anyways. Ed also had a motorcycle accident during this time where he injured his arm, making him unable to work. In 1971, unable to work, he bought a car with his settlement money and began storing the tools he would need to fill his desires: a gun, a knife, and handcuffs. He noticed that many women liked to hitchhike near the college where his mother worked at California State University, Fresno. On May 5th, 1972, Ed picks up Fresno State students Mary Ann Pesci and Anita Lucchesa. He drove them around for a while, pulled his gun from under his seat, and pulled off into a deserted area. He put Anita in the trunk of his car and then handcuffed Mary Ann, put a bag over her head, and tried to strangle her. He stabbed her repeatedly and slashed her throat. He then proceeded to stab Anita with a larger knife and drove around with their bodies in the trunk. He took them back to his home, where he assaulted them, dissected them, decapitated their bodies, and spread their body parts over various locations. Mary Ann was found in August, but Anita was never found. 4 months later, he picked up 15-year-old Eiko Ku on her way to dance class. She was tired of waiting for the bus, so she decided to hitchhike. During the drive, she got nervous and panicked, so he convinced her that he wanted to take the gun and shoot himself, and she wouldn't be harmed. He pulled off into the mountains out of sight, taped her mouth, and tried to suffocate her. He then laid her on the ground and assaulted her, strangled her with her own scarf to make sure she was dead, and then put her in his trunk. Sadly, Eiko's fate was the same as the other two girls when Ed took her back home, decapitated and assaulted her, and disposed of her in different locations. On January 7th, he picked up another hitchhiker named Cindy Schall. She was shot, killed, and her body was tossed in the ocean. Only 1 month later, 24-year-old Rosalind Thorpe and 23-year-old Alice Leo are picked up by Ed. He decapitates them, assaults their heads, and then dumps them on Highway 1 in San Mateo County.
This time, Kemper was able to seem normal. He even hung out at a bar across the street from the courthouse, making friends with policemen, trying to pick up information.
They'd buy me a beer, I'd buy them a beer. Casual relationships, but I was poking around a little bit trying to find some things out. I knew they wouldn't be privy to hot information, but there were some things that were bothering me, like were there any speculations on how they were dying.
Did the cops like you?
Like I said, a friendly nuisance. I got in the way, and it was deliberate. Again, friendly nuisances are dismissed.
How did you get the knowledge to outsmart the police?
Watching television, believe it or not. Joseph Wambaugh, police story. Got some tremendous insights into not just the gimmicks, the actual things, the tidbits that you would pick up from their procedures, but the mechanics behind that, the logic behind it, was I would not allow myself to walk into even a potential trap of behavior. And one of those was talking about those crimes too much to people, initiating conversations about that.
There was a memorial service for 2 of the victims.
Yes,
Were you tempted to go?
yes.
But
I'd seen one too many episodes of one too many crime shows where that is one of the available resources for clues. Tracking down the attenders. One man taking pictures of the people there to eliminate as potential suspects.
He was so incredibly smart, and he used it to manipulate those around him. Ed was such a nice, likable guy that nobody ever suspected him. He even gained the trust of his victims on a couple occasions.
One victim let me back in the car. I locked myself out. She opened the door for me. My gun was under the seat. What in the hell am I doing telling you that? Am I a masochist? Am I looking to be tormented further? I'm trying to show you just how awful this got, how commanding these rages got. I was raging inside. There was just incredible energies, positive and negative, depending on a mood that would trigger one or the other. And outside, I looked troubled at times. Other times I looked moody. Other times perfectly serene. Not very sane.
On April 20th, 1973, he is finally successful in the murder he has been longing to commit all of his life.
I want to see how together I am, if I can resist this temptation.
You going to Walnut Creek? Great.
And they get in my car. They want to go one way. I know they need to go the other. If they go the way they're insisting on, we're headed right back out to where the first 2 co-eds were murdered. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, all I got to do is relax and they'll take me to their death. I've got the gun in the car, the same one I've been doing it with. I insisted. As gently as I could, I took them where they needed to go, to their college.
Thanks a lot.
That was 1 week before I murdered my mother. I said, she's got to die, and I've got to die, or girls like that are going to die. And that's when I decided I'm going to murder my mother. I knew a week before she died, I was going to kill her. And she went out to a party, she got soused, she came home, went to sleep. I was woken up by that, came out. I walked up to her bed. She's laying there reading a paperback, as many thousands of nights before. And she said, oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now. Shit. And I looked at her, I said, no. I said, good night. And I knew I was going to kill her, you know? And I'm so cold, it's so hard. And that's the first time in 10 years I've looked at it that way. I mean, that intensely, that honestly. It hurts. Because I'm not a lizard, I'm not from under a rock. I came out of her vagina. See? I came out of my mother. And in a rage, I went right back in. For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because of you, my murderous son. It was one of our arguments. I cut off her head, and I humiliated her corpse.
He hit her with a hammer and slit her throat, decapitated her, cut off her hands, and cut out her vocal cords. He then proceeded to put her vocal cords in the garbage disposal. He said that he was sick of hearing her talk. And his last victim was his mother's best friend, Sally Hallett. On April 22nd, he invited her over for dinner, but when she got there, he strangled her to death and left her body in his mom's closet. On the next day, Ed flees to Pueblo, California, where he called the police on himself 7 times before they believed him. That's how nice he was. Took 7 times for them to believe him. On November 5th, 1973, at the age of 24, Ed Kemper was charged with first-degree murder on 8 accounts. He was sentenced to 8 consecutive life sentences, where he is in custody today. At present, he is serving his time at California Medical Facility in Vacaville, where he is now 73 years old. Now, I don't know for sure if he actually decided to turn himself in or if he slipped up and got caught. But according to his interviews, he says that killing his mother was somewhat of a cathartic experience, and he knew he needed to stop after he finally killed her. I've watched several interviews that he has done over the years, and I strongly recommend watching the full interview with the FBI from 1984. I've included small clips of that in this video, but I will put the link to the full video in the description. Now, it is very obvious how intelligent he is, and honestly, as much as I hate to say it, you can see why people thought he was likable. He just seems like a very normal, regular dude, which I think makes it even scarier. So what do you guys think? Do you think he would have kept killing, or do you think it was mostly about his mother to begin with? For me, I think the reason why I find him fascinating is because he just seems so aware of his darkness. Even though he knows that it's all wrong per se, he just had such a deep-rooted pain and hatred for his mother. And he really obviously didn't get the help that he needed as a kid. And you just wonder, would it still have happened if he would have been removed from his mother's care at a younger age? Or was his darkness always going to come through in some way, shape, or form? What do you guys think? Thank you guys so much for sticking around through this gruesome one. I really appreciate you, and I would love to hear your thoughts, and also let me know. Do you have a favorite serial killer? Who is it, and why? Maybe one that just stands out to you more than the others, or that you just find intriguing. It's okay to be creepy here. That's what we're here for. Anyways, make sure you remember to like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll see you later, guys. Peace out.